Survivor's ready. Go!
Travis spoken.
Boston Rob and Amber are gonna do it.
This is a business trip, as I like to say.
You, Brad Culpepper.
I'm tired of you and the fucking chicken.
You can call me the puppet master. They can be my little puppets.
It's not like you're making a deal with the devil here.
You get to milk your own milk, I guess.
Who the hell voted for me? Chicken.
Damn! We got enough rocks here, too. We could build a pretty decent shelter just using rocks.
I'm supposed to talk glamour to you. You understand that better?
Direct from Hobart, it's time for the only Survivor podcast in Australia dedicated to Survivor, bringing you all the latest interviews, episodes, and opinions from the greatest reality show on the planet. It's Survivor Oz, and here's your host, Ben Waterworth. Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to Survivor Oz, Australia's only Survivor podcast and radio show, as we continue our episode recaps of the 30th season of Survivor Worlds Apart. The second episode has aired. Lots to talk about, and I am thrilled to welcome back to this show our very favouriteest guest in the world. I say that about everyone, but whatever, I'm a suck-up. She, of course, is the winner of the second season of the Australian Outback, as well as a competitor on All Stars and Blood vs. Water, the one and only Tina Wesson. Tina, welcome back to Survivor Oz.
Oli, 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 oli. You got to do the song. I don't hear any music. I always hear music when I hear my name.
I think you might be the very first person on this show to actually attempt to sing the Survivor theme. Good job.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I've had many years of practice.
It's appropriate.
I go to sleep with it. Yeah.
Yes. Is it your ringtone on your phone?
It is not.
Not quite that obsessed, or?
No.
Well, it's great to have you back here, Tina. It's always a pleasure
Thank you, Ben.
having you on this show. And I just want to say that in terms of recording this, people listening to this, of course, can only hear our voices, but I can see your face. It's so crystal clear over Skype. It's amazing. Yay. It's one of the clearest connections. You're looking amazing, Tina, at the moment. You're doing well.
Well, this is no makeup and just getting ready to go to job site, Tina. So you're not getting the made up all-star looking thing. I thought I'd go like Survivor-ish this morning.
Yeah, that's my look.
I don't have a lot of pride. Don't have a lot of pride.
Well, again, no one's seen this, so it doesn't really matter too much. But
good.
30th season, 15th anniversary. We're celebrating of Survivor. Wow. I mean, I just have to say, Tina, 14 years since the Australian Outback. It just every year we get you on, it's another year added to that. Like, I just still can't believe it's been 14 years since your first season aired.
Me either. It seems truly like just yesterday. I mean, it is so amazing. And I was just talking to Colby the other day, just catching up and whatnot. And it is so funny because it does feel like we could have just finished wrapping the show and we're just chatting. And I can't believe these 15 years have gone by like this. And it's still so much a part of my life. And, you know, I haven't missed an episode like everybody else. You know, the last two seasons, I got to admit that I didn't watch them as they were airing because I got rid of my television. But, you know, I have gone back and I've watched every episode. So I love the show. I love everything about it. It's so wonderful.
Well, we're here to talk about Worlds Apart, of course, but I mean, you mentioned Colby. I have to ask, Tina, how's Colby going? I mean, is he going well with everything at the moment?
He is so happy. He is doing really, really well. You know, he was doing Top Shot there for a while, and he has opened up, for any of your listeners who might want to travel to Texas, he's opened up like his own Top Shot range. And, you know, all the, like, even the cable systems where you hook your seat up and go down a cable and shoot while you're on that cable.
Wow.
He's got that. He's got all kinds of moving targets, all kinds of guns and stuff. So he's really doing well.
Fantastic. No, it's he's still, always talked about Colby. I mean, everybody really is, I think, from, those first couple of seasons, and, still very popular after all these years. So it's good to see that he's doing well, and good to see that you guys are still in communication. I know we've talked a little bit about that through your various appearances on the show over the years, Tina, but, it makes me happy to think that your Australian Outback is still just such, my top 3 favourite of seasons. I just can watch that season over and over and over again, and to still know that you two are talking after 14 years and are still close, it's fantastic.
Well, I'll give you another shocker. I actually did Jerry's show last night, and she and I have become very close. And who would have thought that?
Well, Jerry actually, we've had her on a couple of times. We haven't had her on in a while, but she actually started following the Survivor Oz account on Twitter this week, and I thought, well, Jerry, come on, you should have been following us ages ago. Come on.
I know, that's true.
Yes. But Jerry's come full circle because, obviously, we know that at the time of the Australian Outback, she wasn't very well liked, but she really has gone on to become such a fan favourite in the Survivor community. And I think, particularly after Heroes vs. Villains, where a lot of people thought she very much could have won. So, again, as you said, who would have thought? I mean, here we go, Jerry Manthe, a beloved figure in Survivor now.
Yeah, and it's funny because that's such a hard transition to make from someone who is so disliked to being someone who's liked. So, she's just grown up, and she's done a really great job kind of turning things around, and I'm really proud of her for that.
Fantastic. Hello to Jerry. Hello to Colby. Hello to everybody from the Australian Outback. Even to Kel and Nick, who are somewhere in the world.
I know. I miss them.
Yes.
Not Kel so much, but I do miss Nick. I haven't heard from Nick. I know he's in the military, right?
Yeah, we've sort of loosely tracked him down, and we kind of had some communications. I think it was to do with a military law firm or something, and we got kind of his secretary or somebody who worked in his office who was like, oh, yep, if he's interested, he'll get back to you. And unfortunately, we never got a call back. So, but we sort of loosely found him. But
I'll be darned, you stalker, you.
Yeah, we are. We're very big stalkers on this show. But Kel, we haven't really had any luck there. But
no. Oh well.
Oh well. Exactly. Oh well. But anyway, Survivor Worlds apart, Tina. After 2 episodes, what's your thoughts so far been after the first 2 episodes?
Okay. Well, thought number 1. It's so funny because people always ask me, who do you think's going to win? I've never once guessed it, Ben. Not one time. And so I never really expect to get it right. But this season I picked So to win. Of course, first voted off. Good job, Tina. You're so good at this. Oh, Lord. And then to have 5 people naked last night on our, I was like, oh my gosh, this is insane. So it's just, I'm loving the show, though. I love the concept. I don't know if this is why Survivor is so popular, but I love watching those human dynamics. Mm-hmm. I love it. That is my favorite part of watching the season is just, like Vince and Joe, that dynamic right there. And, whenever you're older, you kind of know what's going on and the insecurities of Vince, seeing Joe as more popular or better liked. And Vince probably wasn't used to that. He's probably used to being in the spotlight and being the most liked one, and how that rubs him. You could just tell how it just eats at him. And it's so interesting. I mean, I don't know if that's why you watch the show, but I love watching these human dynamics.
Yeah, it's a huge part of it. And I mean, obviously you have been there since the beginning of Survivor. I've been watching it since day one as well. And it's kind of to see people who have been watching it from the very first season know that that's what it was all about back in, the early seasons, back in your first season. It was all those dynamics, it was more personal back then. And I think we're kind of seeing that in the last couple of seasons with these newer players now that we're having to get to know these people early on. You know, we don't go into a season knowing them from other seasons. So I think these earlier episodes are important, focusing on these kind of like dynamics that you're talking about there, and really going back to an old school feeling of, hey, we've got to get to know these people ahead of this season that we're about to watch play out before our eyes.
Yes, and I think as far as casting goes, you know, I like the fact that this season there are some interesting people that are fun to watch. I don't know, last season, for some reason, it was my least favorite cast. I don't know why, but it was. And this season I was glad to see the cast and think, ooh, I could enjoy watching these folks. So
it's very interesting about last season because it was, I mean, we came off such a high with Cagayan. I mean, it was just such a beloved season. And then we get this season, which, I mean, someone else there really wasn't overly popular amongst a lot of people. And I think even Jeff Probst kind of said that he wasn't happy with the cast, but he's talked up this season so much. We were lucky enough to speak to Lynn Spielman just before this season started, and she even said that this cast would rank up there as one of her favourites. And she said that after this season, they're all so close with each other. Like, this is a cast that they've remained so close, just, you know, despite obviously all these things are going to happen throughout this season.
Oh, good. I always enjoy that. I always like play the game, but then you all play pretty when it's over.
Yes. I mean, you've been on a season with 3 tribes. Do you like a 3-tribe split?
I really don't. You know, I think it's too complicated. It's hard for me as a viewer to kind of keep everybody straight, and, you know, it takes me forever to remember people's names. And so, no, I really prefer 2 is my favorite.
And in terms of the twist itself, the whole blue collar, white collar, no collar, do you like this twist that they've gone for this season?
Very much, because again, it just gives you a little bit of insight into part of human dynamics and this. I don't want to say social class, but I guess that's what it is to some degree. But no, not really, is it? Because you could be a no-collar and have money, I guess, if you came from rich parents. But I maybe your work ethic or whatever. I don't know what it is, but I love watching that and just seeing how they interact with one another and then how they adapt to the environment via whatever their mentality is. You know, if they are a hard worker, like, you know, we're starting to see a little bit of, and I don't know the fella's name, but the fella on the blue collar tribe who's getting kind of angry because he's doing all the work.
Mike, yes.
Mike, okay. So we're starting to see him, you know, having a little bit of a breakdown because even amongst, like, let's say you're amongst peers and you're all a part of that blue collar tribe where you're all kind of got that mentality of, you know, we're the hard workers. Well, just tweak that a little bit, you know, someone who's just a little more work obsessive, let's say, and it just goes to heck in a handbasket. You know, it's so funny how just such a small little tweak in a person's personality can absolutely be their demise on the show.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah, it's interesting. And we saw a lot of that, like with Mike, as you mentioned, and of course with Nina on No Collar. Like, I mean, she had this one moment where, you know, what Jen and Haley sort of had this, let's go skinny dipping, and they left Nina out of it all of a sudden, and it caused her to kind of just have this moment where she kind of breaks down. I mean, what was kind of your thought on poor Nina there? Did Nina just want to go skinny dipping, Tina?
Well, and, you know, because everything, you're having to cram so much into such a small amount of time. So I'm sure that, what's the deaf woman's name? Nina. I'm sure she had been feeling left out from the very beginning. And so it looks like maybe she's being a little oversensitive. But you've got to consider, you know, I guess they've been there now for, at that point, maybe 4 or 5 days before the skinny dipping thing happened. And so in those 4 or 5 days, I guess that she really because you can feel almost immediately, who's clicking with who's bonding, who's not bonding. And so I guess that she felt on the outs immediately.
And I guess kind of on a 3-tribe season when you've only got 6 people as well. And if you sort of divide that into men and women, for Nina, she's 51, Hayley's 25, Jen's 22. I mean, these are 2 girls that are old enough to be her daughters, and that's such a divide. And as sad as it is, I guess, in those early points, age is something that I guess comes into play very early, isn't it? Because you're trying to relate to these people so early.
Absolutely. And that tends to be, it seems like every season that I've been on, that's what I notice most, is that the first people to gravitate towards each other are age Pacific. And unfortunately, they usually have like one older person, female, and sometimes a male on a tribe, and that's it. Whereas you seem to have younger people, more of those people than older people.
Yeah.
So, there's not a whole lot of people for us older folks to, cling to or bond to or whatever. But, the smart player, if you were older, you would really get in there with those girls. And you would start, just talking to them and, hey, you got a boyfriend? Or, what are your folks like? And just really connect with them. Because it seems that a lot of times the older people's demise is the younger people not feeling close. And it's not their position to come over to you to try to develop a relationship. It's really the older person's responsibility to go and try to build that bond and relationship.
I mean, it's interesting kind of with the casting in sort of modern Survivor that we only seem to get a couple of people, say, over 40 even, you would say. I mean, it's rare that we get a couple in their 50s. It's very rare we get people even over 60. But, I mean, if we kind of go back to, the Australian Outback looking at, Ogakor, you were at the time 40. Keith was 40. Mad Dog was, 51. There's such a spread kind of like in terms of you've got people sort of closest to your age. You don't have, 5 or 6 people who are all in their 20s. It was a little bit more diverse in those earlier days, wasn't it?
It was. And we had Roger. Mm-hmm. Roger was on there. But I think, wasn't Roger the only older person on his tribe?
Roger was, just looking, so Roger was 53, Deb was 45, and then after that you'd be looking at Mike, who was 38. So, yeah.
How do you know this?
I've got a list. Oh, actually, no, hang on. Sorry, no, I don't have a list. I just know this off the top of my head. I'm cheating. I have a list in front of me here of your season.
My gosh, I was going to say that's impressive.
I should have just shut up there. I should have just been like, yeah, I'm that smart. But no, Wikipedia is my friend, Tina, when it comes to these episodes.
Okay. Well, that's impressive.
Yes.
Yeah, so you're right. It's so funny, too, because you were talking about back then in our ages. I didn't realize Kel was 40. He was my age?
Keith, was 40. Kel was 32.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But even Kel's 32. Wow, I'm just looking at that. I thought Kel was only in his 20s. Never realised he was in his 30s. Okay. So,
there you go.
But looking at that, it's interesting on Ogakor then, just looking at that in general, you only had 3 out of 8 people in their 20s. So Mitchell was 23,
wow.
Amber was 22, and Colby 26. Whereas if you look at, say, then this season on No Collar, half the tribe are in their 20s. Joe's 25, Jen's 22, Hayley's 25. They've all obviously gravitated to each other. So, it's kind of interesting to think that the majority of people on Ogakor were over 30, yet half the people on No Collar are in their 20s.
Well, maybe that's why I won.
There you go.
Maybe that has something to do with it.
Yes, and your closest ally was one of the people in their 20s. So there you go. Look at that. That's how you do it.
We're dissecting it. We're going to figure this thing out.
Yes, but I mean, it's interesting.
The secret.
It's interesting, kind of in terms of the older sort of the female with Nina. Caroline last week, kind of just going back a week ago. I mean, here's this woman who looks amazing for a 52-year-old. Can I just point out? And the way she turned that around last week. I mean, she found an idol. She basically got it to the point where she had Tyler trust her enough that So went instead of herself. She didn't even have to play an idol. So we can see, in a way, that you can have this kind of stronger, older woman doing kind of what you were saying and going forth and trying to connect with these younger people, unlike what Nina was doing this week.
Yeah, that's true. And, on behalf of Nina, I've got to say, I've dated a couple of deaf people, and it really is a slight disconnect, and you really have to make a very strong effort because it is hard. You have to, just imagine if every person that you met or came into contact with, you had to make sure you had eye contact and they could see your lips or whatever. You can never be in another room. You can never be behind them. You can never be anywhere else except right in front of them with them looking at you. So I understand it's a difficult situation for her, that it would take someone else being willing to form a friendship with her and kind of almost be specific and say, I'm going to be her friend and really go above and beyond my gameplay to be her friend. And it's a lot of effort and a lot of work out there whenever you've got so much going on and you have to try to form kind of a majority alliance of friendships, not just specific to one. So I think we've seen it on a couple of seasons that there's been someone who's been hearing impaired. It's very difficult for them, and it usually doesn't turn out very well. Yeah,
well, of course, Christy, back in the Amazon, I mean, she was about 6th, I think, off the top of my head. So she kind of made it to that position. But, I mean, the difference, I think, between Christy and Nina is that Nina's got the cochlear implants. Can I just point out, cochlear implants, an Australian invention. Just want to brag there for a minute. Which, I mean, look, I'm not overly familiar with how much they enhance the hearing. But it's... I mean, I commend her for being able to go out there and play a game like Survivor, because it's such a social game. It's such a game where you need to have these dynamics with people, as we've obviously talked about. And exactly as you were saying, like, you've always got to be able to be in a position to be there with people to talk and stay on top of things. And I guess, like, in a way, you couldn't blame Nina for how she reacted to that situation, because Hayley and Jen maybe could have handled that whole situation a little bit better rather than just dismissing it, going, oh, it's so much hard work to be around somebody who can't hear.
Yeah, that's true. And I thought that they were the type of girls that would be like, oh, we're sorry. Okay, if you want to go, you can come with us next time. We're sorry, instead of being more dismissive and throwing it back on her. Mm-hmm. But that's a maturity thing. It's hard to take ownership when someone points out something that you've done wrong, or if you've hurt someone's feelings. I think it goes against human nature to absorb that and say, you're right, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. It's so hard. And to expect a 20-year-old to do that is kind of asking too much, I think.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. We had that situation, then we had this Vince versus Joe situation, and Vince, we're going to talk a lot about him, but I mean, just the look on Joe's face, I was like, what's going on here? And Vince is just being so like, man, it's necessary for you and I to connect right now and talk about this situation. Like, Should Vince have just let that go?
Yes, absolutely, but he couldn't. That's the thing. That is what is so valuable and priceless about this. He can't, and so many people, and I'm sure myself included, we will have a certain personality trait that is bigger than us. We just can't help it. It's just something that we have that maybe is just a little bit too extreme and it can't turn it off. But I'd like to ask you from a male standpoint, I can't imagine how awkward that would be to be another male and have another fella come and approach me with this. From your standpoint, what's your take?
It was just strange because, I just couldn't fathom what exactly Joe did. To me, how we depicted it last week, Vince had some kind of, crush on Jen. Joe then came in, he got jealous and was, going on there. So, Vince then kind of took this whole out of context, and for some reason Joe was enemy number one because of it. So, I don't know, if that was me, if Vince was coming into my face and saying that sort of stuff to me, I would be acting calm and kind of like Joe was, yep, okay, yep, you're not going to, yell at him back in his face, dude, what are you talking about? But, you just would be thinking deep down, which I think Joe was doing, who is this guy? What is happening right now?
And so awkward, too, because Joe's right. The intensity of Vince's look and his staring at Joe, it was unnerving. It was creepy.
Well, the thing is, it's I think Vince kind of had that situation, but by the second half of the episode, I don't know if you felt this way about Vince, I kind of started, all of a sudden going, Vince isn't too bad all of a sudden, because to me, where it went a bit skew-if, I guess the word is when Joe decided to do this whole split vote situation, which to me was strange because in the end it made Will all of a sudden this power player. He could decide which way it went, and Joe's there saying, oh, I don't know if I really trust Will, because he's been off hanging with Vince and Nina all the time, but we'll still do this split vote strategy. If you're not going to trust a guy because he's off hanging with other people, are you really going to put that much faith in him that he's going to go along with a split vote strategy that really he can just screw up in a heartbeat?
Yeah, and the only thing I can say about that is there's got to be things going on that we don't know about. Maybe he does have more confidence in him. Maybe there is something. I don't know. I don't. In situations like that, I feel like it comes down to things that we don't know that's happening. Mm-hmm. I don't ever put. If someone does something and I think, why in the world would they do that? I don't ever think it's bad playmanship on that person's part. I usually think, well, there's a reason why that we're not seeing, because, so much is edited out, and so something was happening. I don't know what.
You've been on both sides of that in terms of going into a vote and being in that position where what's going on, thinking back to, say, the Mitchell vote or something like that back in Australia, and, there's situations where, you're playing people and you're taking control of the situation and that, and then, say, Blood versus Water, the opposite, where you've gone into a vote thinking something's going to happen, then all of a sudden Aris goes home and you're, well, what the hell's just gone on then? So, it's always tricky in those situations where poor old Nina's now left in the dark with this situation with Will flipping and going for the Vince vote all of a sudden, and she's in that position going, what just happened?
Yes, and it's not very good. That is the worst feeling ever to be in the dark, and I think what's more disappointing is, for me, is the fact that, the people that you had your trust in and that you thought you were in an alliance with, well, you're not. And you're just like, that is so sad, because I don't know, for me, it's just a deeper level. And I'm just not able, let me just say, I am not the best Survivor player in the world. I still cannot get outside of that, I've made this alliance, I'm sticking to it kind of mentality. And I do understand if you're on the bottom making a move, I get that. But, for like in our season, the last time, Blood versus Water, for Tyson to kind of change things up, whenever he's not on the bottom, he rearranged things for whatever reason. And, so it wasn't him being threatened, so he had to make a move. So, the fact that he wanted RS out early like that, just, I don't know, it bugged me.
Still,
I can't help it.
It's still, I guess, something that, it's such a unique situation, obviously, with yourself, because had you only ever played the once, you would have never kind of had these feelings because you won the game, so you would have just been like, well, this could have happened, and I could have not have won. But I guess now that you've kind of experienced that side of it, let's ignore All-Stars. We always say that, basically, Tina, that we ignore All-Stars. I love the season All-Stars, but for yourself, we'll ignore it. But, now that you've kind of experienced that situation of so frustrating. Do you sometimes, if you're thinking about that moment of that RS vote out, do you just go, think back to Australia when I won?
No, I don't. It is more of a, I did not want to be in an alliance with Tyson. I had my alliance I wanted with RS, and he's the one that wanted to pull Tyson in. And you've got to remember, on that season in particular, a lot of these people knew each other outside of the game. I didn't know a whole lot of them, but they knew each other. So RS and Tyson had a relationship outside the game. So he was like, no, we can trust Tyson. I'm like, did you watch him in his last season? There was no way I would trust Tyson. And but he's the one that talked me into it. And at one point, he and Tyson and Jervis were very, very close. Very close. And it was a little unnerving being a female in this boys' club. And there was a side of me, and I even went to RS, and I'm like, you're sure about this? Now, he really had to reassure me, because I was feeling so uncomfortable with the boys' club that I almost went and tried to get the girls together.
Oh.
And, of course, hindsight, I'm looking back and I'm thinking, shoot, that probably would have been a better move than staying in this alliance that had Tyson in it. And maybe I've learned a lesson. So maybe I can next time, if there is a next time, maybe not play so much with my heart and stick to an alliance. And if I've got that gut feeling, then go with it. I just don't know if it's inside of me to be the one to break up that alliance. And it's so funny because, those are the people, a lot of people respect the players that do that and play the game so hard, and they may end up even winning because they were able to not really be true to anybody, but true to the game. And I've got to say, there's some players out there who are fantastic players. Boston Rob, he was pretty amazing. And, who was the fella, Tony? Mm-hmm. Tony was a good player, but it takes not really being loyal to anyone. And I just don't have that in me. I just don't. And so that's what I think makes me not such a great Survivor player. But, it means more to me, I guess, that I've been able to play with dignity and play my game my way. And, I won a season and I got pretty close the last time. So, I may not be the best at one aspect of the game, but the social aspect, I guess I'm pretty good at.
Well, outside of course, Sandra, who won twice, and, of course, Parvati, who won and then got second, you are then the highest placed winner to have, because you got fourth, obviously, on your third time. I should say that we did in January, in the lead up to the 30th season, we literally sat down and ranked every single contestant to ever play the game, Tina. It took us 34 hours to do it.
Oh my gosh.
All 442 players. And
oh my gosh.
Do you want to know where you finished out of 442 players?
I don't know, do I?
I think you do, particularly because you beat some pretty good people.
Okay.
You finished in 11th.
Wow!
So you actually, and I will say, you beat Boston Rob. Boston Rob was ranked 12th.
Why?
Well, because what we basically did with it is we didn't rank separate games. We kind of ranked because, Boston Rob's played 4 times, you've played 3 times, so we kind of had to do a comparative of the 3. And, look, outside of Boston Rob's win in Redemption Island, if you take a look at kind of how he plays, it's kind of 50-50. And, your stat-wise in terms of your 3 times, you're a little bit better than 50-50 of how you go. One thing I will say, though, Tina, you're not going to be happy with the one person who could finish 1 spot ahead of you.
Don't say Amber.
Oh,
Do
no,
not
you beat
say
Amber. Oh, no, you thrashed Amber. Amber finished in 38th. So,
okay.
But no, your dear friend Brian Heideck finished in 10th. The look on Tina's face right now, she's about to hang up.
That's inconceivable. That is now. I will say he played a good game, but okay. I won't even comment.
No, that's all right. That's all right. Sandra got number 1, I will say. By the way.
Absolutely.
Yes. So.
Absolutely. Only person ever. I have so much respect for her. It's scary.
In terms of going back to kind of the Vince vote out, Will's decision to vote out Vince rather than going for Jen, do you think he made the right move?
Yes.
Yes?
I do. There's sometimes, well, first of all, I knew as soon as he got a whiff, even just a small little whiff, that Vince may have been gunning for him, I knew he would vote him out. You talk about panic. If you hear your name as even remotely being considered, especially as a male, I don't know if you've noticed that, but boy, whenever a male gets a hint that someone is gunning for them, boy, it is get them out of here immediately. So I knew he was going to vote for Vince. But I think sometimes there's a little bit of, camp morale that's going on. And maybe Vince was maybe a little more abrasive than we're seeing. I don't know. But usually early on like this, whenever you get a chance to vote someone out early in the game, it usually is the person that is maybe the most annoying. And so I think that probably that was the case. And it's so hard out there under the best of circumstances that to get rid of someone who just makes camp life a little difficult, it's even if it's not a smart move, if it helps you psychologically to endure your day-to-day life, it's worth it. It's too hard.
And particularly in these early days, I think it was Rudy who famously said that it was just, within those first couple of vote outs, it doesn't really matter in the way who you vote, because as long as it's not you, because you've just got to, it's so early in the game. We're talking, day 6, Vince is gone.
Yes.
That was kind of the period of Australian Outback. That's when Kel went. And, clearly he was causing some kind of divisions around Ogre Corps. So, I mean, that's obviously why someone like he goes. I mean, on paper, you would look at Kel and think, well, he's going to be great for your tribe because, you know, he's this military buff guy. But, I mean, if he's eating beef jerky and going off and doing what he's doing...
Yeah, and you look at the other tribes right now on the blue collar tribe. Who's the one that's the most difficult to get along with?
Mike.
The bigger fellow.
Oh,
What's
Dan.
his name?
Oh, yes. No, Dan. Yes.
Dan.
Yes.
Okay. So see, if they go to vote, they'll probably vote Dan just because he's being the one that makes camp life apparently a little more difficult. So it's so important as soon as you hit the beach, you know, that you're not the person that's ruffling the feathers, let's say.
Well, what's fascinating about Dan is that, I mean, this is a guy who claims that he has done more than anybody in the history of this show to get on the show. Like, he said he's travelled thousands of miles and sent all these out. Like, he said he's been trying for like 15 years and, you know, you wouldn't find a person who's tried as hard to get on the show as he has. If he's such a fan and if he's so dedicated to getting on this show, like, you would think he would go into this game not being the way he is, if you know what I mean.
But again, you can't help it. It's, you know, I guess that's the one thing I've learned from watching all the Survivor things and how you can put it into your own, if you want to be self-reflective. You know, even for myself on the last season, whenever I kind of had that meltdown after my tribal council where ours was voted off.
Which was amazing.
You know,
which was amazing.
You know this is a game. And I get kind of frustrated watching other people play who come back to tribal council and they have meltdowns because I'm like, you know, this is what you signed up for. Why are you getting upset? And yet here I go and I do the very thing that, you know, I kind of get frustrated with other people doing. And all I can say is that emotionally out there, it's so different than one would expect. It really does break you down, and you're going to have moments. I think everybody out there will have a moment of just either the day itself is just too hard, or you've just had all you can take. You know, and by the end, everybody will probably have a bad day. But more importantly, I think that, like Dan, he goes into the game and he's very enthusiastic. He's so excited. And his personality is just coming out. It's not like you can change your personality to play the game. You just can't. So even if you watch it and you think, you know, the people who are targeted are going to be the people who are maybe a little abrasive or maybe come across too strong, or you might know all these things. And if you're that way, you might think you're going to go out there and you're not going to be that person, but you can't. You can't not be who you are.
It's fascinating with someone then like Max on White Collar who is... I mean, he's literally taught classes on Survivor. Like, when you say a student of the game, I mean, this guy has taught students of the game. And he has been well known in the Survivor community. I don't know if you've ever kind of come across him over the years, but, I mean, he's been very well known. I nearly interviewed him about a year or so ago before he was even on the show about him teaching Survivor. Wow. So I've had interactions with him before he went on the show. So a lot of fans, I feel, are almost wanting him to fail because, like, he's kind of going into this game with so much pressure. But how do you think he's handling that? Because he's really the first person to play this game who, you know, has such like an academic background in teaching Survivor.
Okay, now he's the fellow with the beard, right?
He's the big,
okay.
the naked guy, as you said before.
One of the naked guys. I think he is playing so well. He's keeping his mouth shut. Mm-hmm. That is one of the biggest keys to playing this game. You know, just keep your mouth shut. And he, you know, you watch him at Tribal Council, He's never one to speak up. If Jeff asks him a question, of course he'll answer it, but he's not interjecting his thoughts or his words into anything. And, I love the fact that he said, I'll go out and swim naked just to give me some alone time. Yeah. Because what happens is you go out there and you go swim, and if somebody else comes up and swims with you, the whole tribe is watching. Every time 2 people or more go off together, anybody who is not with them immediately thinks they're being strategized against. And, it is paranoia on crack. It's horrible. And so for him to do that as a ploy to just, okay, I'm just going to go out here and get naked so I can swim by myself and nobody will come join me, so nobody else will feel threatened, I think is ingenious.
I love the whole Richard Hatch 2.0 scenario, and it's kind of interesting because I know, I've heard several stories from Australian Outback where production obviously told you not to talk about Borneo because, they wanted it to keep it like a unique experience. Was there any discussion or people saying, who's going to be naked? Who's going to be the naked one, like Richard last season?
Not on our season there wasn't, but you're exactly right. Production really doesn't like you to talk about any other seasons or any people or anything like that. So it's kind of interesting. Then we have Shireen, who just randomly drops trowel and is walking around with no pants on. I love Tyler's reaction to that because, they're saying, oh, he's a married guy. And then I love the fact that if you looked at Joaquin at that moment, he's staring right at Shireen. Oh my gosh, it is so, I feel so awkward just watching it, I'm just like, oh, and just the tension, I feel like you could cut it with a knife, Yeah, I can't imagine. Yeah. I cannot imagine.
You were lucky you didn't have any, nakedness on any of your seasons then.
No, and it would be very odd because, Hatch was naked on All-Star. And it really is. It unnerves you, unless you're used to being around a bunch of naked people, I guess. But I'm not. And so it goes so against the norm that I don't know. I don't even know what to say about it.
Yeah,
Ben.
I think it was probably the most naked episode of Survivor ever in terms of we had, 4 or 5 people naked? Because, we had Jen and Haley going for a skinny dip, and then, everybody was basically, is this naked and afraid all of a sudden, or are we still watching Survivor?
I know, and to have that many, I guess, people that comfortable in their skin was quite impressive.
Yes, indeed. It was interesting with White Collar because, we didn't really, besides, Max being naked and Shireen, we hardly saw anything of this season, of this episode, I should say. They had that amazing comeback in the challenge. Interesting stat. Every season that we've had 3 tribes, we've had 3 seasons before this, of course, All Stars, Philippines, and Cagayan. The tribe that lost first would always then lose the second challenge. Of course, on All Stars, Saboga lost the first 2 challenges, of course. On the Philippines, Matsing, they lost the first 4 challenges. And on Cagayan, Luzon, Brains lost the first 2 challenges. So this is the first time on a 3-tribe season that we've had 2 different tribes lose the first 2 challenges. So maybe a little bit more even spread, Tina.
Wow. I love your stats. You're Mr. Stat Man.
I like my stats
impressive.
too. Yes. I like the 3-tribe season, but the one thing that I don't like about 3-tribe season is that we always have a tribe that sucks. We always have one tribe that just gets decimated, and I'm hoping, I kind of want Blue Collar to lose next week, so that in the first 3 episodes, each of the tribes has lost at least once.
Yeah, that would be good. That would be really good. And I do think, and I don't know this, but I do kind of feel like production can keep things equal. Like if you've got one tribe that maybe is a little better at puzzles, then if they need to even things out and needs that tribe to have a win, then maybe they'll do a puzzle challenge. I don't know that it works that way, but it just seems to be that way.
Now, we'll get to our final set of questions in just a moment to kind of go over sort of thoughts heading into the rest of this season. But, I mean, just touching on a couple of the other people of note, I feel one person that I've been slightly impressed with, Rodney, or as we're calling him, Boston Rod. He's gone into this game all tattooed and, he looks like this real abrasive, young kid from Boston who's going to be like a real villain. But he's kind of controlling that a little bit. I mean, we saw it kind of like his reaction to Mike and how Mike was reacting. I mean, judging him on his looks and personality to how he's actually playing, has he kind of surprised you coming into this game that he's been a bit calm and been a bit strategic?
There's something about that Boston personality that seems kind of magnetic, and I don't know if that's because of Boston Rob, that he's kind of made such a mark on the game that now you have somebody else and maybe cast him particular because maybe they saw a similarity. And so I think that just as a viewer, I kind of see him, and you almost want to see Boston Rob, and so maybe we're wanting that a little bit. And it's still so early that we don't really know who he is. In my opinion, I really don't know who he is. I think that I don't know. I don't think that he will come across as maybe as good. I don't know. I don't know.
I can kind of see how you're putting that, because it's just, he's fascinated me that I kind of said it in our episode we did last night, that he's almost like a Boston Rob mixed with aspects of a Russell, because you just feel like he's going to break at one point, like he's going to be a real he's going to be mean and horrible to somebody all of a sudden.
Yes, I agree. That's exactly how I feel.
Yeah.
That you're right. He's been pretty calm up till now. And we saw, and maybe we're basing that on next week's clip that we saw.
Yeah.
Him. But yeah, I don't know. He has not been one of those that's impressed me so much yet.
And back on the white collar, we talked about Max. Tyler, he's been one that's kind of, been sort of staying out of trouble, but getting enough of airtime, avoiding looking at naked Shirin. I mean, what's your thoughts on Tyler?
Okay, Tyler's the one who's being the real work ethic guy. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. I like Tyler, except he is setting himself apart a little bit, by having too much expectations on everybody else. If you want to go out there and bust your butt and gather all the firewood and gather the food and be the provider and you've got all this nervous energy and just want to work, go ahead and do it. But don't expect everybody else to. That's where you get into trouble, is once you start projecting what you think is the right thing to do on other people. Mm-hmm. And, he actually, he could play it for his good if he would just do all those things and then not say anything. Because people would notice, wow, he's pretty valuable. He does work hard. They would see him in a very positive light. But the moment that he starts, expecting everybody else to do the same thing, that will immediately flip and polarize him, and all of a sudden that positive becomes a negative. So
that was actually, I got them confused. That was Mike. Tyler, I meant...
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I went along with that. Tyler, I meant... I'm confusing myself now, Tina. I will say it's 1:37 a.m. when I'm recording this, okay? So,
I'm
the
sorry.
coffee's just worn off. Yeah, so you should be. Come on, you're so rude, Tina. Number 11.
Oh.
God, that's why we didn't put you in the top 10. You're just so rude. Tyler's the white collar. He's I don't know, how would you describe him? I mean, so on white collar we've got Max with the beard, Joaquin, the muscular guy, and the other dude.
Tyler. I can't place him.
That's okay. He's not important.
I'm sorry.
He's important. I will say a lot of the people from this cast are listening to our episodes. We got into a bit of trouble, Tina, on our pre-game preview episode. A lot of the cast weren't too happy with our pre-game assessment.
Oh, really?
But in our defence, it wasn't the worst episode we've ever done. We've been a lot meaner to other people, so we have apologised.
Well, you've never been mean to me,
no.
so...
No.
Which is a good thing, because the first time you're mean to me, Ben, history, baby.
Yes. Just don't listen to... I've never personally been mean to you, but just don't listen to what other Oslots say. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Don't worry. Don't worry.
It's all right. We've been... Actually, have we... We haven't been blacklisted by any survivors yet, Tina, so look, we can always try.
Oh, good.
Like...
No, you don't want to do that.
I mean, the reason why Kel won't come on this show is because he just hates hearing beef jerky references.
Oh, no. Well, it really bugs me now. I can't remember who Tyler is. I can't remember. Just can't place him.
See, the thing is like, it's kind of like Tyler to me is playing great, but it's hard to, when you want to describe him, it's hard to describe him because he's, see, people listening to this right now going, Ben, it's Tyler, describe who he is. But, let's just...
Good, the pressure's on you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm the guy who's meant to have these stats and know what I'm talking about here, Tina. Tyler essentially was the one last week who, here it is. Caroline was the one who went to him and told him that she had the idol. She told that to Tyler, and Tyler was the one last week who was, kind of weighing up the decision whether or not to go with voting out So or voting out Carolyn, and in the end, he chose So. Does that help?
Nope.
All right, Tyler, you're not memorable. We don't give a shit about you, Tyler.
What does he do? What does he do for a living?
He's worked for the Hollywood agent company, and he was a former NFL player.
Ding, ding, ding.
There
ding,
we
ding,
go.
Ding, ding.
So
sorry.
excited you dropped the phone.
Hold on.
Uh-oh.
Sorry,
Tina dropped me.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I got him now. Okay.
I should have just led with that, shouldn't I? The Hollywood executive, that was work.
Yeah. I think he's playing a pretty good game. He's kind of under the radar. He's not being hateful to anybody or causing any ripples or anything like that. And it's a smart, I don't know, if you're a male especially, I think males and females have different things in the game that they have to watch out for. Females are much meaner than the males are. They're catty, they're, oh boy, they're more cutthroat, and the men, they're kind of competing against each other, as far as the alpha male. If you're an alpha male, then you've got to somehow, like Joe, I think Joe is playing his alpha male so much different than Vince did. He was so likable, and he's not having to prove his alpha maleness. He'll just go out there and do good in challenges, or be a very likable person, and it comes across as him being a strong leader, male type figure, but being someone that you can trust, that you like, instead of someone who rubs you the wrong way. So in the male category, they've kind of got to do that. Or if you're not an alpha male, which is kind of good, in the second part of the game, because that you need the alpha male in the beginning. You don't really need him in the end. You don't really want the alpha male there in the end. So if you, as a non-alpha male, can survive the first part of the game, you have a real good chance in the second part, because they're going to start targeting those alpha males in the end.
It's so fascinating.
And so I think that's where Tyler is. I think Tyler is, kind of play it safe, be kind of cool, make it to the second part, and then, they'll probably vote out the alphas.
It's just so fascinating with the history of how the show's developed over the years with all that, because, like, you go back to your very first season with, like, a Colby. I mean, back then, like, the alpha males are always expected to win. I think Joel on Borneo was, like, considered one of the favourites to win, and it was a shock when Joel got voted out when he did, and then Colby, obviously, got to the end and everyone thought he was going to win. And then, of course, in Marquesas, when Hunter got voted out like third or fourth, everyone's like, oh my God, that's such a shock. And like, whereas now, like, it's kind of like almost like it's always an alpha male goes within one of the first few. It's just expected almost.
It is hard for the alpha male. I think he's in such a hard position because I think that's one of the personalities that's the hardest to mask or the hardest to control or to maybe not let your personality out so much. And it's hard for them. It really is. It takes a lot of insight and self-control or student of the game or whatever to realize that, hey, I can't go out and do this. I may want to, but I can't.
And in the history of the show, I mean, if you think of all the winners, like, how many alpha males have won the game? I mean, you'd almost classify Ethan as an alpha male, Tom Westman, Aris, JT. Like, there's only been a couple, really, that you would classify as, quote, the alpha male that have won the game. So it's, again, the beauty of Survivor, Tina, that there's never just your one type of winner of the show. No. Like, we've had all aspects of winners of Survivor over 29 seasons.
And isn't that great? I mean, I feel like Survivor is the one show you'll never figure out. You may want to come up with some kind of calculated problem that, okay, this is the key to it, but there's just not. And part of that is because every season you're going to have at least 16 different personalities, and those personalities it's like a cake. Every season you've got all these different ingredients, and what's right on that show would not work on another show with a different cast. So that's why you'll never be able to figure it out. Yeah,
exactly. And we've discussed plenty of times on the show as well that, like, you could get every single person from the Australian Outback out and put them out there in the Australian Outback again tomorrow, and the likelihood that you're going to win again is probably very low. Like, it's going to play out completely different.
Exactly.
But I have faith that you'd win again, Tina. Like, I mean, let's be honest.
Well, Ben, I've always said luck plays a role in every single person who's won. It's just an aspect of the game. Like Mike falling into the fire. It was lucky for us that he fell into the fire because that made us go into the merge with equal numbers. So there's little things that happen every season that I feel like if that hadn't happened, then who knows what the outcome would have been.
Yep, exactly. And this is, again, love having winners on this show because I'm sure you get and have gotten so many questions over the years in terms of, hey, you've won Survivor, Tina, so how do I win Survivor? Like, what's the secret? And, like, of course, there is no secret to winning Survivor.
No, but whenever I go out and talk about it, I always say it's those three elements: luck, logistics, and living relationally.
Living relationally. I like that.
Yeah. I grew up Baptist, so all your sermon topics have to start with the same letter.
Right. Okay. There you go. Well, I will say that I'm very excited actually this season with our Worlds Apart recaps. That you're our very first winner that we've had on so far for a recap, but we've got lined up 4 other winners this season to do recaps.
Good.
Well. I think it's like the most winners we've had in terms of having it, and out of those, like I will say, we're planning to get Richard Hatch back on. We haven't had him on in a while, and so the very first winner, and then also we're hoping to get Natalie back on, the most recent winner. So kind of we've got it bookended there in terms of that, and of course yourself, first female winner. So we've got a few winners lined up for the recaps this season, which we're very excited for, Tina. So
good. Now tell me what you think about Natalie and her win.
Look, I like Natalie, and I wasn't really too familiar with the 20s coming into, because I'm not a big massive Amazing Race fan. And as a character, I love Natalie. I don't think her win was as good as everybody made it out to be. I got into a lot of trouble throughout the season because, like, she has a huge fan base and people were kind of going off at me saying, oh, you know, she's so, like, she's one of the best winners of all time. And I'm like, well, she's like a middle-of-the-range winner. But, like, I don't know. Like, to me, the difficult thing with Natalie's win is that her game really didn't pick up, I feel, until, like, 2/3 into the game. Like, there was kind of that whole first portion of the game where I don't really think she was involved in much. Which, of course, I know as going through, like, what you were saying with how you win the game, like luck and all this sort of stuff, and things happen. But, you know, and I'm not just saying this because I'm on the line to you and people are going to say, oh, you're just saying that because you're sucking up to Tina. I think you're a better winner than Natalie is, and I'm not just saying that. But what did you think of Natalie's win, Tina?
Well, okay. Well, you know, it disappointed me because, again, the lack of loyalty. Mm-hmm. You know, she won because she played the game in a way that you're out to win the game. You're not out there to make friends or anything else. And she was a good player, and she won based on that. Mm. And I still have a hard time the winners who get there by playing that way. Mm-hmm. And that's just on me. You know, I mean, a lot, especially the young people, feel very differently than that. You know, they really respect that kind of play. But I guess maybe just from the human dynamics part of it, I would rather someone win who had an alliance and that alliance was strong and they ended up winning the game based on that. Yeah. So that's just my own personal opinion. I was very disappointed when she voted out whoever it was that she voted out. Missy or
Baylor?
Baylor. Yeah. Gosh, they're good. See, like that was way back when, and I can still remember that.
Well done.
Yeah. The fact that she voted Baylor out, you know, that really bugged me because they were close, and I don't know, Ben. I have a hard time with that.
The thing that amazes me about San Juan del Sur, we spoke a lot about this last season, is that, and this is no disrespect for the people who played that game, it was a season of just like, of not brilliant players, but not shit players. Like, it was kind of like middle of the range, like kind of how it was. And we had Natalie on for kind of a full interview about a month or so ago. And, like, if you remember back to the vote where she voted out Alec, she was not meant to, and then she came back to camp and everyone was like, who the hell voted for Alec? And she played dumb and was like, oh, I thought I was meant to. And everyone believed her. Like Natalie said in her interview, she's like, I'm playing with these people who were dumb enough to believe that. So, like, and that kind of gave me a bit of respect for her because I'm thinking, like, well, look, yeah, she's exploited the situation. Good on her. That's Survivor. But, like, I can see your aspect because, like, I think everybody has a favorite. Like, they have a winner. Like, everyone has their winners that they like, and everyone has their way of appreciating how a winner wins. And, like, you obviously have your way. Yes. You were saying, I like someone like a Brian Heideck or a Richard Hatch or a Todd or a Kim who wins the way they play. But, I mean, again, I don't take away from other people who win differently because at the end of the day, as we just said before, there's no one way of winning Survivor, and you can never take away somebody who lasts 39 days and gets voted at the end by their peers to win $1 million.
Absolutely. And I think it's harder to win the way that Natalie won or some of the other more strategic players. I think it's harder to win that way because, you know, there's more manipulating and having, it's almost like telling a lie and then having to remember that you told that lie. So you have to remember, you know, it just kind of keeps snowballing. And so I think it's a harder way to win the game. But if you're the type of person that it doesn't bother you, that, you know, okay, I'm maybe not this way in real life, but I'm going to play the game as if I don't have any emotional attachments. It would be easier as a person to go out there and play the game if you could get in that mindset, you know, and not have to worry about people's feelings. It would be so much easier I wish I could do that. I really do, because then, you wouldn't have the emotional aspect of the game, because it's still, I've got a lot of people who, they think I've hurt their feelings because I voted them out and they thought they were in alliance with me. But I wasn't. They might ask me, and I have to say, yes, I'd be in alliance with them because I don't want to be voted out. But I'm not the one who made that alliance. They are. And so they feel betrayed by me. And, to this day, it still bugs me. It hurts my feelings that they think I've hurt their feelings.
Well, the key part of you winning Australia was, and I think at the time you probably got a lot of stick for it, was the Mad Dog vote. Because, we saw how close you guys were. But, that was obviously very important for you to win that game and to really show, I suppose... And this is, the thing about Survivor is that, and we're going on a huge tangent here, Tina, but whatever, this is fun. It's Survivor's a show that if you can rewatch seasons, things click more and make sense more. Like, if you're a fan of the show, go back and watch, and that's what fans do, they go back and rewatch it. But if you really you obviously know what you did because you played the game, you won the game. But if somebody watches the Australian Outback and it's just like, oh, Colby should have won, he did this, he did that, Tina shouldn't have won. But if you go back and watch kind of things you do, and that Mad Dog vote was obviously so important in building how you won that game, and it showed that you were willing to go against people that you were obviously very close with in the game, but you had to do it to win the game.
And I was not in an alliance with Mad Dog. I just felt sorry for Mad Dog. And so she was one of those people that she needed some help. She was afraid to go out into the bush at nighttime to go do her business. So I would go with her, and she was older, and she bonded with me. I didn't necessarily bond with her. I just was being nice and helping her along, and it came across as like, oh, me and Mad Dog have this thing, which we didn't. But whenever it was time to vote her out, I looked like this horrible person for voting out Mad Dog, and she thought, she had me in her pocket, that we were in an alliance, but we weren't. And so again, it comes across as I cut her throat, but I really didn't. I was never in an alliance with her.
And they edited it to make it look that way, and then all of a sudden, Tina.
Yes. You sneaky devil, you.
Yes, indeed.
And it hurt me so bad. You cannot imagine how bad it is. And granted, I'm not a television personality as far as... I don't go on these shows to be on television. I go on for the adventure, the fun, the excitement, the hardship. And so, to come back, especially to watch that season and to be edited or for people, anybody to think that, I have done this to another human being. It was so hard, Ben. And I finally was able to talk to Mad Dog and tell her, Mad Dog, I really wasn't in this alliance with you, and I'm sorry. I was in this other alliance, and, but that doesn't mean that I didn't want to be nice to you. I still want to be nice and kind and help you and whatnot, And so you have to have a thick skin, which I don't have. I've got a very, very thin skin. And this game is brutal on people. And I don't know, as you being an interviewer and a big fan of the show, I would say, I don't really know how, if you're this nice to everybody, then I would say, you're doing really good. And so I just say be gentle with people, because maybe not everybody is into this game, has a thick skin. So be careful.
Well, it's good advice. And people call me a suck up on this show. I mean, it's just my personality. I like to be nice to people, and the thing in doing this show is that, I'm going to interview people that I'm not necessarily fans of on the show. I mean, I don't love every single player to have played the game Survivor, of course, Tina. But, even when I'm interviewing people that I'm not fans of or I don't necessarily like, or it's a difficult interview, or the person's being difficult, I'm not going to then turn into a difficult person and be mean to them, because what's the purpose of me doing that? Like, I haven't got them on the show to be like, I hate your guts, you know.
Good for you.
Like, I mean,
I knew there was a reason why I liked you.
Good, and that's why you keep coming back on this show. Like, I mean, the one thing I will say is, like, I mean, people know who listen to the show that I'm not a huge Boston Rob fan, but like, we had the pleasure of having him on the show, and in speaking to Boston Rob, like in just speaking to him over the phone, I can see why people are drawn into him, because I'm talking to this guy on the phone and I'm engaged in what he's talking to me. Like, I am like, I'm listening and hanging on to every single word. I'm like, if I'm on an island with this guy, I'm going to be in an alliance with him. Don't like watching him on my TV, but like, like it's kind of weird how you get kind of that connection with people sometimes when you're even just on the phone to them. So,
yeah, I think Boston Rob, what impressed me, I think, with him and his game was the fact that how he was able to be such a force that nobody doubted him. Yeah. Everybody should be like, kind of like I was with Tyson. Like, I don't trust Tyson. We saw how Tyson played the game. You don't trust a person like that. But Boston Rob was able to have everybody under some kind of voodoo spell that nobody questioned him. Yeah. And that, to me, is what I thought was just so amazing, was how he could pull that off. I've got one more question for you, Ben.
Please
Sorry.
do, Tina. You can ask me whatever you like.
How about, was that the absolute, positively worst final tribal council you've ever seen last season?
As in, for someone del Sur?
Yeah, nobody asked a question. Everybody kind of made a statement, and it was so boring, I mean, there was no question that somebody had, except for that last little bit, that was kind of rough. That was really rough. But nobody asked a question, to make you think that, wow, however they answer this question is really going to depend on how that person votes. Everybody just had it like a little something that they wanted to say, and it was awful. I thought it was terrible.
That's a good point you make. It would be up there. I think the difficult thing about final tribal councils now, and I mean, you've been on a very recent season, and I know we talked to you about this kind of on how that vote went with Tyson, but like, I feel for the most part, every jury member goes into that final tribal council really knowing who's won the game. Like, I can't think of the last season that was really decided by like a vote or two. Like, it's been a long time since we've had a very close one, so it has been a string, I feel, of final tribal councils that haven't really been, like, a lot is hinging on it. Like, if you know what I mean. Like,
good point.
Like,
good point.
I mean, one that really sticks to mind, I'm actually rewatching the season at the moment. It's a season that I love and everybody hates. I'm watching One World right now, and, like, Kim Spradlin, like, she's almost overtaking Brian Heidick as my greatest ever player, because to me, she plays pretty much almost the closest to a flawless game. Like, in our rankings that we just did,
she did.
In our rankings,
she played a great game.
We sat, like, Kim came number 2 to Sandra, and we were sitting there going like, can anybody sit here right now and tell us one thing that Kim Spradlin did wrong? And none of us could list a thing. And that's hard to find that about a Survivor contestant. But like, One World was a season which I expected so many people to be like, Kim, you did this. Kim, you did that. Like, you said this. But no one was like, I don't know. It's a very good question, though, you raise about that tribal council, because I think it's more of a kind of looking at just recent seasons, because just off the top of my head, and even just kind of looking at these seasons right now, the closest, we haven't had a close vote in a long time. Nicaragua, I think, was the last one that was decided by a vote, off the top of my head. And that was season 21, and what we're in season 30 right now. So we've had like a string of 8 seasons in a row where the winner kind of has won fairly, comfortably. So
okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. So I guess you're right. I guess all the jury members knew Natalie played the best game out of the other folks, and they didn't really have anything to say. So I guess that explains it.
How would have you felt? And I love how we're talking about last season, but whatever, we've got a lot to catch up here, Tina. Like, had Natalie been voted out when Keith did, and Keith was in Natalie's spot, how would have you felt if Keith won the game?
Oh my gosh, we can't even discuss that. There would have been no way. Poor Keith, he just rubbed everybody the wrong way, so it would have taken a miracle. But, and there's been seasons where people have won that I really, really did not want to win. And, I get so angry because I've invested so much time in watching that season. And then to have that person win, oh my gosh, I get so angry. I don't want to discuss it.
I know that there was the big, obviously, the 10-year anniversary where, I think that was probably the largest collection of Survivor players ever coming together. But I would just love it, and not necessarily all winner season is a dream, but if they somehow got down to it and said, we're going to get all the winners in a room, we're going to have, this, just a night for the winners. And you all were there. I don't know. I just think you'd find that fascinating, no doubt, of all these people. Because, you were the second ever winner, the first female ever winner, people are going to come up to you and Richard is you are the first two. And then you're hanging out with these people. As you just said, you're they've won. And, they're in this exclusive club, one of only 28 people to have won this game. So it would be fun to kind of see, how that would play out.
I would love that, really. Because regardless of how a person plays, to make it that far under those conditions, both environmentally, physically, emotionally, I just have a lot of respect for anybody who has won the game. Even though I might not have wanted that person to win, I still have a lot of respect that they were able to pull it off and to have survive the game. I think about the people who quit this game, and I don't know. I just think, granted, some of these seasons are pretty brutal. The rain and the cold, those two combinations together. I don't remember what season it was where it just rained and rained and rained. And whenever it's like that, you can't boil your water, so you can't eat, and there's been a couple of those seasons where their season was a whole lot harder than any season that I'd ever done. And so for people to quit under maybe a situation like that, or a situation where physically something goes wrong, I get it. I can stomach those people, but someone who just, last season, Rocker's girlfriend to quit, I tell you, it's, this game gets to me. I think I'm a pretty even-keeled person, but then to have such strong emotions on something like that, it always surprises me that I can feel that deeply about something.
And it's fascinating whenever somebody quits, because, I always kind of get, I don't say defensive of quitters, because to me it's people who are judging them are these people who are saying, I've been applying for this show for 30 years, and if I got on, I would never quit. And I say, well, how do you know that? You've never experienced that. But
right.
On the flip side of that, hearing yourself or anybody who's played the game, I'll hear you out. I think you've got a very valid point to say, these people shouldn't quit, if that makes sense. Because, it's kind of like Colton's quit on your season, and then how harshly, and actually I was let Noah describe this perfectly. I thought everyone was so very harsh on Colton's quit of how he quit on Blood vs. Water, and then Julie essentially quit for almost, you would say, the same reason. She just couldn't hack it and just wanted to leave. Yet nobody was as harsh on Julie as they were on Colton.
I know. What is that about? I was kind of surprised too. Even Jeff's response to her was not very strong.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what's the deal?
Yeah. Now, we're going to get to these final questions. We're having a fun chat here, Tina. I like this. I'm just scrolling through kind of it. I love the fact that you raised out about that final tribal council, and I've found a sort of a list here in terms of how close we are. If we go back to the very start, so back when you obviously won, the first 5 tribal councils, only one was not decided by one vote. That was Africa. Ethan won that 5-2. Every other tribal council was decided 4-3. So Richard beat Kelly 4-3. You beat Colby 4-3. Vecepia over Nalia and Brian over Clay. And if you look at the last, few, Natalie won that 5-2-1. Tony won 8-1. Tyson won 7-1. Cochran won 8-0-0. Denise 6-1-1. Kim 7-2. Like, that's the discrepancy.
Wow.
The last season that was decided by one vote was Nicaragua. Fabio beat Chase 5-4. And before that, you've got to go back to Gabon. Bob beat Susie 4-3. Parvati beat Amanda 5-3 in Micronesia. And then you've got to go all the way back to Cook Islands, where you'll beat Aussie 5-4. So, like, it's
Wow.
so rare that we get, like, a close tribal council now. And I don't know if that's the final 3 scenario instead of a final 2. Like, I don't know, but...
Well, I tell you what that is. It is the winner being smart and taking people with them to the final tribal council that, you know, Tyson knew not to take me to tribal council with him. He knew to take Jervis and Monica. You know, nobody wanted them to win. So it's smart people taking the right people to the finals with them.
I wanted Jervis and Monica to win. I'm like Monica's only fan in the world, Tina. Everyone hates Monica. I'm like the only defender of Monica.
Well, Monica she's a good person. She's just out there playing the game with her. It was just very difficult because you didn't really get a lot of who Monica really is out there. Not, I guess, genuine. Being someone who is genuine, you didn't get that.
Yeah, yep.
Hold on, I've got to plug in my charger.
That's completely fine. What I'm going to do now, though, is while you do that, when in terms of Worlds Apart, we have our final 5 where we get your thoughts on things here, Tina. Now, it's very difficult at this point of the season, of course. It's only 2 episodes in, so these questions are harder now than they are at the end. The last time we had you on for a recap, we had you back on in Cagayan with Katie. We had you both on for a recap, and you were on the penultimate episode, so you had it kind of easier back then. I just will go through your tips at that point. So you tipped Spencer to win. So he got quite close. Your dark horse to win was Wu. He got second, so... close. You said next to be voted out was Cass, which I think she was about 2 after. Again, close. You said you would be on the Brains tribe, and you said the player you were most similar to was LJ. So, okay. Just go over your tips there. So,
pretty good. Not bad. Lucky.
Yes. I'm like you, though, when you said that you never can pick a winner. I've never picked a winner either, so...
Oh, really?
Yep. The only time...
Who have you got this season?
I said Max would win this season, so...
You know, I would like Max to win.
It would.
I like him.
It would fit well, I feel, if Max win. But he's not going to win because I picked him, so I can tell you that. Tina Wesson, the first question then is for you right now. Who is your tip to win Survivor Worlds Apart?
Max.
Done. I'll blame you then if he doesn't win. It's just nothing to do with me.
Okay. I'll take the heat.
Yep, all right, good. Who's your dark horse to win?
Oh, man. Okay, let me think for just a second.
Don't ask me to describe them. You know how bad I did it last time. That guy on that tribe.
Oh, Lord. Oh. Okay, so by dark horse, this would be someone who really doesn't have a chance, but I think that they actually could pull it off.
Yeah, so basically somebody who nobody's really thinking can win, but could sneak through and take a win, so to speak. You'd almost probably call, like, if you went back this time last season, you'd probably almost call Natalie a dark horse, because I think after 2 episodes she really was nowhere. Like, no one was picking her as a winner after 2 episodes. So,
yeah. Okay. Well, and as far as winner's concerned, I like Max, but I really like Joe too, because Joe reminds me a little bit of Ozzy. In that, well, even more so than Ozzy, he has he's a good challenge person. He doesn't rub anybody the wrong way. But what I like about Joe is that, kind of how he handled that Vince situation. I love how he handled it, without getting mad, without, like you were saying, going like, yeah, I get you. Yeah. Oh, no, we're good. No, he didn't freak out and go, dude, you are some weird agent, And so I really respect that about Joe. And I think that personality has a good chance of winning. So I may even pick Joe over Max if I can change mine.
Well, look, I'll let you, just because you asked.
Will you?
So politely.
Okay. Can I get off of the dark horse then? Because I can't. I don't know.
How about I put Joe as tip to win, and I could just sneakily put Max as a dark horse.
Okay, that's good.
Does that work? All right.
I like that.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
This one's a little bit easier for you then. Who do you think will be voted out next week?
Geez, Pete. And that's the thing with 3 tribes too, is it makes it so much harder with 3 tribes to try to come up with someone, because it just depends on which tribe goes to tribal council. So I'll say white collar. No, I'll say blue collar goes to tribal council and Dan gets voted out.
Dan goes out. Can I just say, Geezo Pete is my favourite new swear word. I think we've finally discovered in Blood vs. Water, when they blurred your mouth out and you swore, that's what you said. Geezo Pete.
See, there you go.
The mystery has been solved.
Oh gosh! Even that, does Geezo Pete start with an S?
Geezo Pete. I enticed your own daughter to swear on this show, Tina. I'll get you to swear one day. So, yes.
Oh,
notice how Katie hasn't been back on this show since she swore. You've obviously blacklisted her from coming on this show again. Good job.
Oh, no. I would give anything for her to come back.
How is Katie going? She's going good, yes?
She's going, so good. So good. Her life is just beautiful.
Fantastic. Good to hear. All right. Here we go. I like this question because it's one of these ones that I can ask this question. If you were to be on one of the tribes, Tina, white collar, blue collar, or no collar, which tribe do you think you would fit onto best?
Oh, wow. Blue collar.
Blue collar?
Yeah.
I think we're going to get a lot of blue collars, because I think a lot of the people we've lined up are very much blue collar. Like we had Jeremy and Val on last week, and obviously, firefighter, police officer, both very blue collarish. So, yeah.
Well, I just like that. I feel like I am a hard worker. I love to get out and sweat equity into something. The more physical it is, the better. And I respect that in another person who's willing to get out there and get dirty and work really hard. I just like that, and I think that's where I fit in life.
There you go. Simple. All right, my favourite question out of these, always the final one. Out of all the players on this season, which player do you feel is most similar to how you played on your 3 seasons of Survivor?
On the season that we're currently watching?
Yes.
Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. Well, I have to go almost with a woman who is similar to my age. I don't have much of a choice
21?
there. I love you, Ben. Why would they ever call you a suck-up?
Yes, exactly. I would not have a clue.
Whatever the gal's name who found the idol.
Carolyn.
I
see it. And the thing that I see, because we saw her being a bit feisty last week, we saw that side of you in Blood vs. Water, which again, I really loved seeing that side. That was great. Angry Tina. It was good. So,
thanks.
No, you're welcome. 4th time around, I want more Angry Tina.
Yes, sir. You got it.
I want Rupert-esque. Who the hell voted for me? Trying to throttle Johnny Fairplay or something like that.
Yes.
Well, Tina, I will say thank you for your time. Always a pleasure. You're heading off to Mount Everest in a couple of weeks, I believe. So
I am. I'm so excited. I can't stand it.
How long now till you're off to go?
12 days.
12 days. You're not counting down at all, are you?
Not at all. Nope.
So you're not climbing Mount Everest. You're just going to base camp, or?
Correct. Yeah, we're going from Lukla and hiking. I think it's 80 miles.
Wow.
To just the base camp.
Wow. That's still pretty incredible to be able to, you're right there at Mount Everest.
Yeah, and you're 19,000 feet, so you're way the heck on up there.
Wow. Incredible. Well, we look forward to hearing those stories when you get back, Tina, of course. And
thanks, Ben.
Always getting you here on Survivor Oz. It's always a pleasure. Thank you very much. And hopefully when you get back from Everest, you'll catch up on this season and let us know what your thoughts are of it, of course, when you do catch up.
All right, sweetie. Well, thank you for staying up so late to talk with me.
And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Tina Wesson, winner of the Australian Outback, and of course competed on Blood vs. Water and All Stars as well. Always a pleasure. And I think for the most part of the episode, we didn't talk about Worlds Apart, but it was a lot of fun. And I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did as well. Now, we always take this opportunity at this point of the episode to do a little bit of housekeeping. Now, you heard me talk in that episode in terms of who we've got coming up. Winners-wise, I should say. A lot of winners lined up for this season for recaps, and we're very excited, of course. I teased about Richard. We're hoping to get Richard Hatch back on throughout this season. It's been a while since we've had Richard on, so we're looking forward to getting him back on. Natalie as well. I know we've got a lot of Natalie fans listening, and I will say that not only will Natalie be on the show, but we're planning it that she'll be with Nadia. So we're planning the twinnies to come on together to recap an episode. They're both very keen for it, so we're hoping that will happen. Other winners in terms of who we've got lined up to come on this season for a recap, we're hoping to get Ethan back on for an episode recap a little later on in the season. He's keen to come back on and do one as well. And very excited as well to get Denise Stapley back on the show for an episode recap. We try every season to get Denise on the show, and I know Denise listens to Survivor Oz. So Denise, if you're listening right now, I'm not trying to call you out here because I obviously know that you're very busy with your profession and everything along those lines. And the fact that we've got you lined up to come back on the show, I'm very, very excited for, because Denise's episode, her interview, was one of the best ones we've ever had on this show. So we are very much looking forward to that. In terms of coming up soon, though, next week, every year in March, I have a week off in terms of not being able to do episodes. I know technically I did that last week with Colin hosting the Val and Jeremy one, but I'll be off in Melbourne jet setting, watching the Formula One. So Noah or Colin will be taking over next week again for another week, doing both the Oztopsy and the episode recap. And next week we are looking to return to the show the fantastic and ever opinionated Kathy Sleckman from Micronesia. You know that she's going to have a plenty of things to say. So tune in for that one. As I said, Noah or Colin, or potentially even both, will host that one. So stay tuned for that. Get your questions in if you got them for Kathy, and we can go from there, of course. And other housekeeping matters, you would have noticed our Val and Jeremy interview finally put up. We apologise for the delay with that one. Had some technical issues last week when we were meant to initially record it on the Saturday, and then due to scheduling, we had to move it forward a little bit there. So that's why it was up so late. And again, we sort of explained that a week or so ago on an Oztopsy, that things might change a little bit now with Survivor Oz in terms of scheduling. Things might be up a little bit later than they usually are. Do apologise for that. We'll try and work our way around it as best as we possibly can. This week's Oztopsy is available. Episode 2 is there to listen to, and sadly, again, I should mention, no exit interviews this season. We did explain that in our first Oztopsy, and we're hoping to put a post up as well just to go over that, because I had a few people asking why we're not doing that, but not getting into that right now. Thanks everybody who tuned in. Thanks to Tina once again. This has been Survivor Oz. My name is Ben. Until we next speak again, the tribe has spoken. We'll speak to you next time on The Trains.